Welcome to the Lifelinks podcast, all you sassy Latinas. This is where you come to hear stories that resonate with you, help you discover your true cultural identity, tossing off the need to fit in, and standing out with your authenticity, because that is your superpower. I'm your host, Consuelo Crosby, and also the creator of this content. If there's anything you'd like to share, please reach out to us on our Instagram social media at Lifelinks, that's LNXX, or through our website at thelinks.com. Of course, come here for some love and chat sessions with our fab guests from the comunidad. Sit back, have your cafecito, maybe some vino, whatever you like. We are bringing the sisterhood to you. Hola, 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 chicas. So happy to have you here on the Lifelinks podcast today and every Wednesday. Hope you had a glorious Easter weekend with family and friends, and you had some tias or somebody pulling out all the cooking because, yes, this is one of those major holidays where people are willing to cook for the entire weekend and show up all together on Sunday. It is the best food in the world. It doesn't matter what country, what heritage, the best. Bias, no bias. It's fantastic. And, of course, keeping in the weather report, we finally had sun and heat. And I know this is left coast California complaining. Yes, we are rather weak in this sense. But seriously, you wouldn't expect tropical animals to thrive in this cold either. Trust me. But it's more that I miss the throngs of people just gathering outside, hanging out in the parks, along the waterfront, just spontaneity at the outdoor places. I miss talking to people in person. So I headed out the door with absolutely no plan. I just wanted to let life happen because that is my favorite mode. And that's what this episode is all about. The freedom to wander off whenever, wherever you feel like, without having to compromise. It's all about that solo, or in our case, sola travel, even if wandering in your own town. Now, this is all sounding really familiar if you were listening to last week's episode with Flavia Cornejo, because this is her Pod Club episode, the follow-up where we pull out all the gems from what we heard last week from Flavia, the solo travel expert and founder of Latina Travel. Wow, right? She was so insightful of why solo travelers for Latinas is so important. And her expertise just was clever in finding out ways to do it on a great budget. Now, no worries. If you haven't caught up from last week's episode, this one stands alone. Still, you will definitely want to listen to Flavia's own voice and her passionate knowledge and life story on traveling alone from a really young age. I would never. For myself, yes. As a parent, no. I could not put my little girl on a plane for like a 13-hour flight. With all of her experience traveling solita, I would totally trust her opinion and recommendations for getting out on your own. Because as you heard, that getting out on your own is invaluable to where you're going in your entire life. So if you didn't have time to take a full listen, at least take a look at last week's show notes, because there you'll see the link for the resource article to our website that gives a quick synopsis of what her episode is all about, and the links. This is the most important part, the links to her social media and her blog website. And for those of you already on her social media who already clicked through, oh my gosh, weren't her pictures of Eastern Hungary just off the charts? What a privilege to see traditional Hungarian celebration and costumes for their Easter Sunday festivities. It was like seeing a movie. So thank you, Flavia. Thank you for your adventurous travels and giving it back to us through your social media. It was just, I wanted to be there with you. I know you must have had a lot of takeaways from Flavia's episode. She touched on so many different points, both very, very personally for herself, personally for Latinas as a whole, and then just the ins and outs of doing the solo travel and how to do it on that great budget. The gem for me that Flavia highlighted and that we really paused in was why solo traveling was so invaluable for first-gen Latinas especially, raised in their culture at home and then stepping out into a society that viewed them completely differently. Even Flavia herself had an epiphany, an aha moment last week when we were talking about our own upbringing and how that upbringing, those cultural norms, those rules that are only in the home, they don't apply when you go outside, how that may mute our real personality from coming out. That upbringing, if it's all wrapped up in that same voice we heard from Joanna Feliciano, remember that amazing episode? ¿Qué va a decir la gente? Oh, that premise, that constriction could be covering up who you really are. And unless you've done the work to discover your true self, away from family, away from expectation and cultural norms, then you may not even realize what your true personality is really like. You were raised in that from the beginning. From before you could walk and talk, it was already in place. And that's how automatic that perception of who you are may have become. You don't even realize there's another person in there. And this is where Flavia shared the treasure of her own experience. Where solo traveling, even if it's just hours away, gives you the freedom, the arena, the blank slate to be whoever you feel like in that moment. There's no criticism, no correction, no judgment, no alternative. Just freedom to be curious and open to speak your mind and join in. And like she said, those experiences, those are priceless. Those are why you go solo traveling. Because you may discover a whole other person in yourself that you didn't even know existed. And that new person who's out traveling safe and confidently in the world starts learning new skills. Those skills and confidence start a whole different thinking pattern. Now, in that mindset, you might come up with new ideas that lead you to a completely different life based entirely on who you really are. Can you imagine that feeling? That feeling of knowing you're exactly where you're supposed to be? Like the joy of not having to second guess yourself or worrying about saying something wrong, quote unquote, wrong, or embarrassing the family, or feeling as though you're not good enough because whoever you're surrounded by is making you feel that way. And just like Flavia said, solo traveling isn't just to go check off places you've been or sites you've seen or posting it on Instagram, although we do love her posts, gotta say. But we know now, after listening to her episode, we know the woman behind those posts and what it took for her to get there. This Latina traveler, her IG account, her website, her everything, the Latina traveler is guiding you to explore not only the world, but who you are. She emphasizes that is the most exciting part of solo traveling. Discovering who you are when you're out in the world and not just in your community. Still, listening to Flavia jump from country to country, 35 so far, or who knows, by the time this drops, 37, 38, and 32 of the United States, and she's only 31. Oh boy, these 30s are really rolling for her. Anyone out there who does numbers, we have to give an evaluation of what's happening. It's totally exciting. I love wondering like, oh, I want to go to Guatemala. Ooh, I want to go to Hungary. Ooh, I want to go to Egypt. Now, if you can't get away just yet, I hear you. At least start planning to get out in the unknown, to find out who you really are. And ask Flavia for help along the way. She was really encouraging us to reach out to her for any little nugget of support, encouragement, knowledge, experience that she could give. And you can start off small, remember? Whether it's the town next to you or another region, someplace where people will be open to learn who you are. Someplace you have the power to explode into that person you're supposed to be, far from those cultural rules and out from under opinion. People can become so accustomed, even your best friends, to who they think you are. And sometimes they want to keep you there. That's their comfort level with you. If they know who you are and what you're going to do, that's their relationship with you. So when you go on these solo travels, even going a few hours away where nobody knows you, and you can explore the personality that you were born to be, that is the invaluable lesson that Flavia was teaching us from last week. Who knows, maybe solo traveling becomes your profession too. And you can join Flavia out in the world because you heard her. She still doesn't see many Latinas traveling out in the world, let alone traveling solo. So you can go out there and join her in a place that you've always wanted to go. Now, her episode last week really spoke to why this podcast shares Latina journeys and gives this platform for Latinas to speak their truth, because the journeys are just so different than what is typically heard out on the media platforms. And though we can catch glimpses of it across social media, it's still difficult to really understand the person behind the accounts, the real person. And so that's what we hope to do here on this podcast. Sometimes we don't even realize how different our life is, our journeys and backgrounds and experiences are, until we hear it from another person's point of view, another perspective. As powerful as it was to hear Flavia say, oh yeah, I hopped on a plane at 7 with my sister alone and we flew to Peru. That floored me. And yet I know there must be thousands of you out there that have a similar story. I tell you, it was a really, really powerful episode. So grateful for Flavia. Absolutely brought new insight into what it means to not just get away from here and what you know, but to go discover yourself. Take your best friend traveling, yourself. And so coming up next week, I'm hosting another amazing Latina who is going so strong at such a young age. Amarani Villegas, a cell and molecular biology graduate coming up in May, only 4 weeks from now, and a PhD candidate. Now, if that sentence alone intimidates you, no worries, chillax, amigas. Amarani is all about the empathy for staying on your path, regardless of what life throws at you. Her story revolves around that one professor in college that told her she had what it takes to be a scientist. And although she was intrigued by the idea, because she's a very intelligent and curious person, financially it seemed out of reach. Until he shared with her this one major piece. Funding. Not loans, funding. And just like so many Latinas, the guests on our show and everywhere out in the world, she didn't stop there. Instead, she has created an organization to provide resources to Latinas in STEM. The science, technology, engineering, and math majors and industry professionals. So talk about someone to go have a margarita with. Amarani is all that. The joy, the compassion, the brilliance. And yes, we go nerdy. We go very nerdy in the episode. but you'll want to hear her love for creating an easier path for all Latinas to enter into STEM. She's amazing and powerful and full of joy. Plus, her name means queen. Right? So listen in next week to Amarani's insights that you can take out in the comunidad and share with anyone you know who's interested in the STEM fields. Now, it's been a minute since I could go out and enjoy a cafecito at one of our fab women-owned coffee stores. But this weekend was so beautiful and celebratory that it called for more than just a cafecito. And that's why I headed over to Nito's backyard here in Oakland. It is such a fab place. Literally, it's a bougie Latina backyard because of its owner, Sylvia Hernandez Mecalo, a first-gen Mexican-American who grew up in Los Angeles. Oh, the vision. I tell you, it's a special life. Just laying back, basking in the warmth, sipping a fresh margarita with reposado tequila and lime juice and honey. Oh, this is why I love venturing out on my own. If you have a chance, yes, you do. I'm not even going to say if you have a chance. Go check out her Instagram reel at Nito's Backyard, where she shares her story. You see her first, and she tells her story, her passion, her dedication, and determination to have a restaurant, and how many iterations it took to come to Nito's Backyard, all based on her luscious family recipes. Amazing food. I tell you, we had it one time. I ordered it during COVID when we could just only go pick it up for a Noche Buena. Oh my Lord. So much food, roasted vegetables, carnitas, taco plates, rice, beans, margaritos, totopos, you name it. So if you come out to San Francisco Bay Area and you don't hit me up so we can go there, I'm not going to feel the love. Let's go and probably end up dancing to her sassy playlist out there. Step into your truth, ladies. Ciao. Really appreciate the time you take to rate and review the podcast. Get the backstory and what you've heard here today and reach out to us at thelinks.com. That's LNXX. Because it's about time, it's about us. Stay in the groove on our social media at Lifelinks and get ready to make your move, ladies. Viva!